My name is Robert. I'm 45, and for 5 years I lived in a house where every inch bore my fingerprint, and not a single room carried my name. It was a quiet suburb outside Chicago, one of those neighborhoods with trimmed hedges and morning joggers. I bought the place before I met her. Candace, 38, widow, 2 sons. She came with the soft ache of loss and the hardened confidence of someone who'd survived it. She wasn't the grieving kind. She was the type who turned pain into armor. I loved her for that once. Alex was 15 then. Justin was 11. They came with their own ghosts. Framed photos of Michael in the hallway, stories that began with "Dad used to," and ended with eyes that dared me to interrupt. Michael had died young. A heart attack. Sudden, clean, cruel. The kind of death that doesn't rot, it sanctifies. I never tried to replace him. I knew better, but I thought I could build something parallel. Not a father, maybe, but a man who showed up. A man who held the house together. So I showed up. Every morning I made breakfast. Pancakes, oatmeal, eggs, whatever they'd eat without complaint. I changed the oil in their cars. I paid for soccer cleats, piano lessons, therapy appointments when Justin's grades slipped and Alex got suspended for shoving a teacher. I waited outside ER rooms when Alex broke his collarbone. I held Candace when she broke down on the kitchen floor one Thanksgiving because Michael's favorite pie had shown up in a neighbor's basket. I built our lives in layers. Quiet ones. The kind that don't get thanked. Just expected. It wasn't love. Not really. But it was duty. And I made a religion out of it. First, the boys kept their distance. I was Robert for the first year, then him after that. In group texts I wasn't part of, I became the dude. I never once heard my name with softness. Candace told me they needed time. They're just kids, she'd whisper into my neck at night. When we lay in bed and I stared at the ceiling. They've lost a lot. I nodded. Always nodded. I was good at swallowing things that hurt. But over time something changed, not in them but in me. It was subtle. The way Alex would walk past me without a word when his friends were over. The way Justin would drop his dirty dishes on the counter, never in the sink, as if the house cleaned itself. They started leaving doors open when I walked by, talking just loud enough for me to hear them laugh. One time, I overheard Alex telling someone on the phone, "Yeah, Mom's husband, he's whatever, just pays for stuff." Candace heard it too. She just raised an eyebrow and turned the volume up on the TV. I thought maybe this is what step-parenthood is, a slow grind of giving without thanks, of presence mistaken for convenience. I thought if I kept showing up, the cracks would fill in. But they didn't. Instead, the cracks learned to smile. Candace used to say, "Michael wouldn't have said it like that." Whenever I raised my voice, which I rarely did, I wasn't loud, I wasn't cruel. But when I tried to enforce curfews, phone rules, chores, anything, it always circled back to the same thing. I wasn't him. And slowly I stopped trying. Not because I didn't care, but because I did. I began to move through the house like a guest overstaying his welcome. Fixing things that broke, paying bills that didn't have my name on them, nodding when I wanted to scream. They didn't resent me. Not exactly. They tolerated me. They needed what I gave and despised what I represented. Dependence without respect. It's a poison that seeps into the walls. And then came that Friday night. The dinner that broke everything I'd been pretending still held. I grilled steaks. Alex liked his rare. Justin only ate the edges. I knew that. Candace had asked me to pick up a bottle of wine. I chose the one she used to love when we first met. A dark red that smelled like memory. We sat around the table. Small talk. Justin scrolling through his phone. Candace laughed at something on TV. I asked Alex about school. He shrugged. Then, out of nowhere, no warning, no build-up, Alex looked straight at me. His voice was calm, calculated. "You're just the sponsor, Robert. Not family." He didn't flinch when he said it. He didn't even blink. Justin snorted. "Investor in Mom's boredom." They both laughed. And Candace, my wife, the woman I had moved mountains for, she didn't scream. She didn't defend me. She didn't even look at me. She sipped her wine and muttered, "They're just kids. Don't take it so seriously." And that was it. That was the moment I knew. Not that they didn't love me. I'd known that for years. Not that Candace had stopped seeing me as her partner. I'd felt that coming in the silence between her smiles. But that no one in that house ever would. No one ever planned to. I finished my steak, chewed slow, drank my wine down to the last bitter drop. I cleared my plate, rinsed it, set it in the dishwasher. I said nothing, not a word. I went to my office, closed the door, sat in the dark, and listened to the hum of a house that had been draining me dry in exchange for mockery. Every ceiling I patched, every light I rewired, every grocery bill, every vacation, every invisible hour of labor that kept their world intact, erased with one sentence. You're just the sponsor. They'd said it like a joke. But it wasn't funny. It was prophecy. I sat there all night, didn't sleep, didn't move, just stared at the wall and saw every year laid out in layers. The birthdays I paid for, the tears I comforted, the silence I endured. And I realized this wasn't a home. It was a transaction. And I had overpaid. By morning, I wasn't angry. Anger is hot. Anger wants revenge. What I felt was something colder, something cleaner. I was done. Done building a kingdom for people who saw me as a wallet with hands. Done paying for affection that would never be given freely. Done trying to earn my place in a story that had already written me out. That morning I made coffee. Strong. No cream, no sugar. I sipped it while the rest of the house slept, unaware that everything had already changed. I had spent 5 years trying to belong. And in one night, they showed me I never did. By 6 a.m., the plan had already become muscle memory. I made the first call to the bank before the sun crested the neighbor's rooftop. My voice didn't shake. I wasn't canceling love. I was closing an account that never yielded returns. Joint credit cards? Terminated. The emergency visa Candace kept for groceries? Cancelled. The card I'd opened in Alex's name to build his credit? Gone. Justin's student app with automatic gas and Spotify renewals? Disabled. Insurance policies were next. Health, auto, home, all mine. Always had been. I removed their names from every auxiliary line. Updated the passwords. Enabled two-step verification on everything. Their safety net had always been me, and now it was just me again. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out 5 years of records, and began to build a ledger. Stacks of receipts, tuition statements, utility bills, every Christmas gift, every dental visit, every online course. Groceries for 3 that I carried up flights of stairs in the snow. The endless Amazon packages Candace forgot to mention. Just a few things for the boys. I itemized everything. Not for revenge. For truth. I stacked it neatly. 2 piles. Labeled. Highlighted. 5 years of invisible work. Printed in black and white. And on top, I left a note. From now on, you're on your own. Let the one you call real family take care of you now. I didn't sign it. I packed only what belonged to me. My tools, my books, my clothes. The cufflinks my father gave me. A few framed photos, the only ones I was in. I left the rest. Didn't smash a single plate. Didn't make a sound. By nightfall, I was gone. I didn't tell anyone where. The lease on the apartment across town was signed that afternoon. 1 bedroom. Small, quiet. A view of a tree instead of 2 boys who looked through me. No texts. No calls. Just silence. A house that no longer fed them. 2 days later, the messages started. First, it was Candace, 10 missed calls in a row. Her voice, shaky on voicemail. Robert, this is too much. Please. They're just teenagers. They don't understand. Come back so we can talk. I listened to all of them. Said nothing. Then came the texts. Alex, where's the gas money? Spotify's not working. Did the card get hacked or something? Justin, not cool, dude. You broke everything. Hope you're proud. Not a single, are you okay? Not a single, we're sorry. Just panic because the stream had dried up. They weren't missing me. They were missing the money. And that's when the difference became clear. I had never been a stepfather. I had been a resource. Their world had moved with the ease of a luxury sedan. Smooth, quiet, unbothered. But I was the engine. And now the silence wasn't peaceful, it was terrifying. A week passed. I didn't respond. Candace showed up at my new apartment. 6:15 p.m. Rain on her coat, keys shaking in her hand. The moment I opened the door, I saw it in her face. The makeup was gone. Her eyes, once lined in control, were soft with something unfamiliar. Not guilt, not sorrow, something simpler, uncertainty. "I didn't know they were treating you like that," she said, voice low, brittle. "I thought it would pass." I stood in the doorway. Let her speak. Let her squirm. But I remembered every moment she watched it happen and said nothing. Every insult that went unchecked. Every eye roll she ignored. Every time she let me stand alone and then asked me to carry the groceries anyway. She looked down at her hands. I should have said something. I just didn't want to fight with them. I nodded. Not in forgiveness. In understanding. Cowardice wears many faces. Hers was called comfort. 3 days after that, Alex called. First time he'd called me directly in months. His voice was hollow. "We had cup noodles for dinner," he muttered. "Mom said you shut everything down." I waited. Let the silence stretch. He didn't say sorry. He didn't say thank you. He said, "So what now?" I hung up. Because that's not a question you ask someone you mocked. That's a question you ask a bank. A few days later, Justin tried. His message was shorter. "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd actually leave. We were stupid. Still no, how are you? Still no, we were wrong. They thought I was bluffing. That I'd storm out, crash on a friend's couch, then come back with groceries and guilt. That I'd be angry for a weekend, then refill the fridge on Monday. They mistook consistency for weakness. Generosity for stupidity. They didn't realize I was gone because I believed them. They said I was just the sponsor. So I canceled the contract. 10 days after I left, they came to my door. All 3 of them. It was dusk. The sky had that bruised purple edge. I heard the knock before I saw them. 3 silhouettes behind frosted glass. Candace in front. Alex beside her. Justin lagging behind. She didn't wear her usual confidence. Just a long coat and dark circles under her eyes. Alex spoke first. "We were wrong," he said quietly. "You were the one holding everything together. And we mocked you." Justin nodded but didn't look up. His headphones were gone. He looked smaller than I remembered. "If I could take that night back, I would," he said. Candace stepped forward last. Her voice was flat, not cold, resigned. "I failed you," she said. "I let them treat you like a stranger in your own house. Not because I didn't know, but because it was easier." I watched her face. I wanted to believe her. But belief is expensive when you've been robbed slowly. I didn't invite them in. I didn't lecture. I didn't cry. I just said the truth. "I didn't leave to punish you. I left so you'd understand who I was." They stood there waiting, hoping I'd let the past be washed clean. But that house they wanted back? It was gone. Torn down, not in fire, but in indifference. Still, I offered them one thing. One chance, I said. No promises. No guarantees. Everything has to change. Not words, actions. They nodded. They agreed. Desperation makes saints of sinners. But I watched their eyes. And I knew. Some debts can't be paid in apologies. The day after they showed up at my apartment, I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't offer help. I let the silence answer them. Because they didn't need more words. They needed space. To feel what absence actually means. They'd lived so long with me in the background. Quiet, constant, convenient. They never imagined a world where I wasn't there. They'd confused my reliability with permanence. They thought I was the wallpaper in their lives. Always there, dull but dependable, something you don't thank or think about. But when the lights stopped turning on and the fridge stayed empty, when the bills came in with no one to intercept them, the house turned cold. Alex called again 2 days later. Mom can't cover everything, he said. The bank keeps bouncing. They froze the cards. He paused, waiting for sympathy. She's trying, he added. She really is. I said nothing, because trying doesn't fix what you allowed to rot. Then came Justin. It was a voicemail this time, the first time he used my name. Robert, I don't know what we're supposed to do. Mom's freaking out. Alex is pissed all the time. I was stupid, okay? I didn't mean it. Please. His voice cracked near the end. But remorse that follows collapse isn't growth. It's fear. They began sending photos. Pictures of overdue bills, of empty shelves. A cracked phone screen. Justin's busted laptop. Gas prices. Receipts. Candace finally broke her silence in a text that came at 2:11 a.m. I know I didn't defend you. I know I failed you. I don't expect forgiveness. But they're still kids. If this goes on, they'll break. I stared at the message for 5 minutes before closing it. Because they weren't breaking. They were unraveling. And I had spent years pretending the seams weren't already split. I returned to the house on a Wednesday. Not to talk. To collect the last of my things, the old toolbox in the garage, the antique saw from my father, a jacket I forgot in the front closet. The house was quieter than I'd ever heard it. Justin was on the couch, knees pulled up to his chest. The TV was on but muted. Candace was at the kitchen sink, staring out the window like she expected Michael to walk up the driveway and fix all of this. Alex came downstairs as I packed my truck. He stood by the door, arms crossed. You don't have to do this, he said. I looked at him, really looked. Hair overgrown, shirt rumpled. The arrogance was gone. What replaced it was something new. Confusion, maybe shame. He wasn't angry anymore. He was lost. I nodded once, then kept packing. They came again to the apartment 5 days later. This time, they didn't knock right away. I watched from behind the curtain. They stood on the porch like kids waiting for a verdict. Candace was in front again, her coat tighter, her mouth thinner. When I opened the door, she didn't speak. She stepped aside. Alex cleared his throat. His voice was rough. We've been doing the math, he said. I didn't realize how much you covered. It's insane. Like, how did you do it? He shook his head like he didn't want an answer. I got a job, he said next. Part-time, stocking shelves. It's not much, but I'm trying. Then Justin stepped forward. I applied for internships. Nothing yet, but I'm looking. Candace looked at the ground. I sold the ring, she said softly. The one from Michael. Her voice cracked. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't speak. Not out of cruelty, out of caution. Because pain doesn't always mean transformation. Sometimes it's just noise between the next mistake. They stood there, waiting. Finally, I opened the door wider. You can come in, I said. But it's not a return. It's a test. We didn't live together again. I kept the apartment. They stayed in the house. But I gave them rules. Hard ones. No money unless asked for with intention. No assumption of my time, my help, my presence. If they needed something, anything, they had to show why. Had to earn it. First, they flinched. Years of comfort don't die quietly. But I didn't waver. Alex started bringing home pay stubs. Justin took over the dishes. Candace learned how to budget. She printed coupons, clipped ads. The kind of stuff I used to do in silence while they rolled their eyes. I watched them flail, then crawl, then walk. But I didn't offer praise. Respect isn't rewarded. It's expected. One night, 3 weeks later, I came over for dinner. Candace cooked. No wine. No sarcasm. Alex cleared the table. Justin handed me a folded piece of paper before I left. Inside was a handwritten list of everything I'd paid for over 5 years. At the bottom, he'd written, I don't know how to pay this back, but I'm going to try. One thing at a time. I didn't cry. I didn't hug him. I just nodded. Because this wasn't about emotion. It was about effort. Candace started texting again. But differently. No pleasantries. Just updates. Alex made rent this month on his own. Justin fixed the shower by watching YouTube. I turned down a new bag. Put the money toward groceries. She didn't ask me to come back. She knew better. One day, I opened the apartment door and found an envelope on the floor. Inside were 3 notes. From Alex. You didn't owe us anything. You gave everything anyway. I won't forget that. From Justin. You deserved more. I'm sorry it took losing you to see it. From Candace. You weren't the sponsor. You were the spine. I sat down. Let the words settle. Then I put them in the drawer beside the lease. Not framed. Not displayed. But kept. Because maybe, just maybe, they'd finally seen it. Not just what I did, but who I was. I let them come back. Not to the life they'd lost, but to something quieter, stripped of comfort, dressed in consequence. There was no grand reconciliation, no movie scene embrace, just effort, measured, earned, slow. The house felt different now. When I walked through it, the air no longer hummed with entitlement. There was dust in the corners, unpaid bills on the counter, and silence where sarcasm used to live. It didn't bother me. It was honest. Finally honest. I started visiting on Sundays. Never announced, never late. Candace always greeted me with the same quiet nod. No apologies, no tears. Just an unspoken understanding that everything that came next would be built from the wreckage we'd made together. Alex usually met me in the driveway, hands still stained from work. He'd picked up shifts at a local hardware store. I'd drive by sometimes and see him there, stocking shelves, cutting lumber, learning the kind of patience that money used to buy him out of. The boy who once called me sponsor now asked me which tools were worth keeping. He listened when I spoke. Not always with agreement, but with respect. That was enough. Justin was different. He had grown quieter since the collapse, but his quiet was no longer defiant. It was focus. He helped his mother with groceries, cooked when she was late, and kept his headphones off more often than on. Sometimes, when he caught me looking, he'd give a small, awkward smile. The kind that says, I'm trying, even if I don't know how. Candace had gone back to work. First part-time at a florist, then full-time as a manager. It humbled her. Money became an exercise in endurance instead of indulgence. For the first time in years, she tracked her spending, counted receipts, saved for things instead of expecting them to appear. When she looked at me now, there was no demand behind her eyes. Just the quiet shame of someone who'd finally seen the cost of what she'd ignored. They were learning, not through punishment, through absence, through the heavy arithmetic of cause and effect. The first few months were rigid. Every visit was transactional, repairs, errands, small talk about work. I helped Alex change brake pads, fixed a leak in the kitchen sink, replaced the hinges on the back door. Tasks that once went unnoticed now carried meaning. Every time I picked up a tool, I saw gratitude, small, clumsy, but real. They didn't try to fill the silence with forced affection. They didn't say they missed me. Instead, they showed up early, stayed late, asked questions, listened. It wasn't love, but it was labor, and that's how love begins again. Through work, not words. One night, Candace called. Justin wants to talk to you, she said. Her voice was careful, like she was handling glass. He got on the line. I got accepted to the community college. They offered a scholarship. Not full, but enough. I wanted to tell you first. I leaned back in the chair, eyes closed. That's good, Justin. You earned it. He hesitated. I didn't use your name on the forms, he said. But I wanted to. I just didn't know if I should. My throat tightened. You don't have to ask me for permission to be proud of yourself, I said. You just have to live like the kind of man you'd want to be named after. He didn't answer, but the silence that followed felt full, not empty. That's how I knew he understood. As months passed, the rhythm returned. Slower, steadier. We built boundaries that held. I paid for nothing unless it was earned. If Alex needed help fixing his car, he worked alongside me. If Justin wanted money for books, he showed me receipts. Candace never asked for a cent. Not once. Sometimes she'd slip an envelope onto my truck seat before I left. $20, maybe $40. A gesture more symbolic than financial. It meant she was trying to stand on her own legs. One evening, after dinner, she walked me to the porch. The sky was soft with that dying orange light that always feels like a confession. I still dream about that night, she said. The one at dinner. The things they said. The way I didn't stop it. I looked out toward the yard. You don't have to explain it, I said. I do, she whispered, because I think I wanted it to happen. I think part of me wanted to see how far you'd go before you'd leave. I was angry, at life, at Michael, at the kids, at you, and I didn't realize I was letting them speak the things I couldn't say. The wind moved through the trees, soft, hollow. I thought you'd forgive us, she said. I turned to her then. Forgiveness isn't the problem. Forgetting is. Her eyes filled but didn't fall. She nodded. Then let me remember. By winter, the boys had changed. They weren't saints, teenagers never are, but they carried themselves differently. Alex started saving money. He'd bought his own used car, paid for it in cash, and refused when I offered to check the engine. I'll figure it out, he said. You've done enough. Justin spent weekends volunteering at a youth center. Said he wanted to help kids who didn't have dads around. He didn't look at me when he said it. He didn't have to. The house itself began to breathe again. The laughter that returned wasn't cruel. The silence wasn't tense. Even Candace started humming when she cooked. Small, fragile sounds of peace. One night, Alex handed me a box. Open it, he said. Inside was a framed photo. The four of us, not from before but from now. No matching outfits, no fake smiles. Just us sitting on the porch, tired from repainting the fence. My hand on the brush, his on the can. Real. Underneath, a note. You built this house twice. The first time for us. The second time for yourself. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. The moment said everything. Still, some wounds never heal. They just scar. Reminders of the places where something once broke. Candace and I never spoke about love again. Whatever we had once called marriage had turned into something else. Quieter, smaller, but strangely honest. Companionship, maybe. Respect. Not forgiveness, but coexistence. I stayed in my apartment. She stayed in the house. We didn't combine anything. Not money, not names, not expectations. We just lived in parallel, intersecting only when effort brought us together. And somehow that was enough. Sometimes I drive by the house at night. The lights are on. The yard is clean. The world goes on. And for once, I don't feel the weight of it. I don't feel like I'm missing from the picture. I feel free from it. Because I finally understood something I should have learned years ago. Family isn't about blood, or names, or who sleeps where. It's about who learns from the damage they've done and who doesn't. I rebuilt my life on that truth. Slowly, silently, without applause. The boys learned. Candace learned. I did too. And now, when I wake up alone, make coffee in a kitchen that's mine, and look out at a world that finally owes me nothing, I feel peace. Not joy, not triumph. Just peace. The kind that comes when you stop asking to be seen and start standing where you already are. Was I wrong to walk away? Was I cruel to let them fall? Maybe. But sometimes the only way to teach the value of what you gave is to take it away and wait to see who rebuilds.